I just wanted to make sure that you listeners are listening to the Drapetomaniac podcast on doayamedia.com. You are, right?
Peace, family, and welcome again to this edition of the Drapetomaniac podcast. This is Ayapo Yapa, the HDIC, that is the head Drapetomaniac in charge. And today I'm with my lovely wife,
Angela, who is not a dick. I'm not an H-dick.
Right. Brother. And we're here to have conversations on how to get off this plantation. This is going to be like an impromptu Drapetomaniac podcast. Usually I have a subject written down that I'm going to talk about, and as I was telling Angela this morning, and as I even said in my other podcast, I know that I've become pretty much one note because my concerns are about not only Fukushima, but about us separating. And I talk about it all the time, every time, and I typically don't deviate from it because I feel like those are the two issues that face our people, and anything else is just static in the background. It's not saying that I find it unimportant because I listen to a lot of everything, but in the overall scheme of things, I'm always using the Titanic analogy. If the ship is sinking, I'm not going to worry about who has the most food on their plate or how the pictures are hung or anything like that. I'm like, we need to get off the ship. So anyway, that's my perspective. That's where I'm coming from. And again, if you listen to me every week, you already know what I'm going to say pretty much. So anyway, I'm going to try to switch it up a little bit this time and bring Angela in on it, and she can give her different perspectives on different things. So.
All right. One of the things that I've been listening to my music over the last couple of days. It seems like these days, periodically only, I'll turn on music and just listen to it for a couple of days straight. But one of the songs that is not on my playlist, but I was thinking about, is a song from the play Dreamgirls. I think it was originally a stage play. It was turned into a movie. Mm-hmm. But when it was a stage play, I believe that it came to Detroit when I was a child. And my cousin, who lived with us at the time, got a copy of the music. And there was one song on there that she loved, and she would play it on repeat again and again and again. And as a young person, I'm thinking that I was probably 10, 9, relatively young. Just the passion and the intensity of the song really kind of captured me, and I just thought it was really beautiful. And she was my older cousin, and she played it all the time, so I thought it must be a great song. It's a song called, I don't know what it's called actually, but You're Gonna Love Me is how I think of it.
That song.
You can say what you want. I'm not walking out. I don't want to be free. You gonna love me. Were you gonna say something?
That song. I've always thought, what if it was reversed and it was a man saying that to a woman? You'd be like all kinds of Me Too and stalker, and mm-hmm. So I don't, anyway.
Mm-hmm. So what I was thinking about.
That Jennifer Holliday?
I think Jennifer Holliday might have sung the original, and I think there's Jennifer Hudson might sing the remake, but both of them are the passion of the songs. And in my playlist, some of the music that I listen to is stuff that are sentiments that I have felt and can relate to. That's not actually a sentiment that I can relate to. My general thing is, I'm not gonna force anybody to love me. And no, if you don't want me, I don't want you either.
Right.
But I was just thinking about that in terms of when you talk about the podcast being one note, I feel like that's kind of the theme of the podcast, that as Black people, we're like, you can say what you want. I'm not walking out. You're going to love me. This is the best thing that I've ever had. And, it just kind of causes me to think about the things that we're attached to, the things that we feel passionately about, the things that we feel deeply about, the things that we're strongly attached to, that are probably, some of those things may not be for our best good, may not be healthy, may not be wholesome. I think that song, aside from the fact that if it was a man singing it to a woman, and I never really think about it from that perspective, but I think that's a good point. But aside from that fact, even a woman singing it to a man, it's kind of, it's a crazy song. And in the context of the piece, she's in a crazy place. She's desperate. And I think that as Black folks, we're in a crazy place. And I think that a lot of times it's difficult when something is all to get free from it. Right. And to detach from it and to let it go and to move on from it. Even if you think it's the best thing that you've ever had. Right. Sometimes it's just kind of hard to let it go. So that's one of the things that I was thinking about. And it kind of got me thinking about, I'm a student of metaphysics. I study the tarot, and one of my favorite cards is the Tower. But another card that I really, really enjoy is the Devil. And it's a card that I think can be triggering for many people. Just the image on it. And if you do a reading with them and they see the devil, they're like, oh my God, the devil, what's going to happen? Ah! Right. But it's a card that when you look at it in most decks, the depiction is there is a devil type figure. And then generally there are two human beings that are less prominent, but still pretty prominent on the card that are attached to the devil. And I think of us and our attachment to, evilness, our attachment to Babylon, our connection with Babylon. Right. And what I feel is really powerful about that card and what I enjoy about the card is that when you look closely on most artists' depictions of that sentiment, the chains are there, but the chains are actually like you could slip your hands out of them on some cards or they're open on other cards. But just this idea of being attached to something and feeling like you can't leave it, but you actually are not attached to it. You actually can leave it. It's just a matter of, looking at what's going on and detaching yourself from it, which sounds simple, but it's not necessarily simple. And I think part of what is not simple about it is that generally when we look at a card, the devil card or our lives, what we focus on is the devil. Right. And that's the name of it. The devil. Oh, this card is about the devil and how evil the devil is. And I actually see that card as a card of freedom. I see that card as a card of opportunity. I see that card as a message about self-awareness and self-examination. Right. And that as you were talking about that, and even when you first presented it to me, and I was thinking about it, basically everything that we understand about anything comes from what we were taught in this Western civilization under white people, right? You're taught that you're taught that Christianity is the way, Jesus Christ is the only way, and white Jesus, and so on. And you're at the same time taught that the reverence of your ancestors and all this stuff, anything having to do with you or where you actually came from, which is Africa, right, is something evil or something wrong. And something bad, something less than, something to be ashamed of, something to hide. Right. Although, they try to say, well, if you worship idols and engraven images and your ancestors, and that's all they do. We had discussed, you can't go any place and not find a statue of Christopher Columbus, George Washington, They freaking, their money is full of worshipping of their idols. And
And not only that, but they give just as much reverence to their ancestors and their Confederate ancestors who did unspeakable evil, right? And they write songs about it, sing songs about it, expect you to stand and put your hand over your heart over it, and so on. And I'll close out by saying this. As you were speaking about the devil card, I thought about the movie Contact, where a probe went out into space, or not a probe, but an alien civilization was sending our waves, our television and radio waves back to us, right, on Earth, and somebody in the government looked at it, and some of the waves they were sending back were showing like different things that happened in human events, and then it showed Hitler, right, speaking, and the government person who was talking to the scientist said, of all the things that they would see, it would have to be Hitler and blah blah blah, and the scientist said, you're interpreting it the way they don't know who Hitler is. They have no context for anything. They're just sending the waves back. My point being, though, depending on the context that you look at a thing from, that's going to determine what you think about it. And so that's, all my life, having been raised in Christianity, I'm talking, the devil. Well, that card doesn't mean that.
Not to me.
Yeah. That's not what that's not what it stands for. It stands for like different things. So anyway, that's just what got me on that chain of thought, is how entrenched the thinking is. Because, we were watching like commercials the other day and watching the old commercials, and it's just like this programming that you go through nonstop.
Propaganda.
Cradle to grave programming.
Yeah.
So.
And I think just in terms of like, we were watching those commercials, and it's interesting to watch things from this perspective, where I feel like I have some level of freedom, where I feel like I've escaped some ideas and some connections. Because when I'm watching some of those commercials now, I'm like, that is a bunch of mess and mess and confusion.
Right. And
we were kind of looking at like, how black people are represented, and, just like what they're saying about food and freshness and health. And, but when I can also remember a time when, for example, as a child watching cartoons on Saturday morning, it's like, I want Lucky Charms. I want Apple Jacks. I want, I don't know if Lunchables, but I'm sure that stuff got programmed into me, at some point. And even I feel like when I'm not watching the commercials, I remember someone saying, when I was an adult, and we were working on vision posters, she's like, take your vision posters and put them everywhere, because how when you want to go on a diet, I've told you this before, and you have such a hard time because you want McDonald's, you want Burger King, you want KFC. And the reason is because everywhere you go, you see signs for KFC, Burger King, McDonald's, and I feel like that's the propaganda machine. Like, it's programmed in again and again and again. It's pushed on you. Somebody had said years ago, why does Coke and McDonald's don't need to advertise? Everybody knows who they are. Right. They don't need to advertise, but they need to advertise why. Why are they doing this? To keep them top of mind, to keep triggering or keep pulling up that programmed in response. To activate, to push our buttons and activate us in the way that we've been programmed to be pushed and activated.
Remember, I used to say that one of the most irritating things to me used to be, now there's more advanced pop-up blockers, but before those came along, you almost couldn't use your computer without having some porn pop up in front of you. And I'm like, you don't need to pop up a porn pop up in front of me, because that is literally the easiest thing on the internet to find. So if I wanted to look for that type of thing, I wouldn't have any trouble finding it. You don't need to pop that up in front of me.
But there's a reason that they were...
Yeah, because they're trying to get you programmed into it.
They're trying to get you programmed into it. And if they catch you in that moment when you're not thinking about it, you'll go to it. But even, before the internet and, pre-commercials, We sat up here the other day and I started saying the Pledge of Allegiance, and I know it by heart.
Right.
And I remember even as a child, I stopped saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I don't know if everybody had this experience, but in my school, we stood up and said the Pledge of Allegiance to start the day off as part of the routine in elementary school. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it's because of, what I was exposed to, but something in me was like, I'm not saying the Pledge of Allegiance. And so I would just stand up and not participate in it.
Right.
It wasn't a big resistance, but it was a small resistance. But I still know it. I still know all of the words. Like, it's already in me. Mm-hmm. It's programmed in me. Even when I'm not thinking about it, it's there. And it's running in my mind on some level. And so, the other thing, I see you looking at the clock, so
No, go ahead.
Okay. The other thing that kind of connects with me for the devil card that's important is I consider myself an affirmationist. Like, I feel like your perspective and what you focus on is really important, and how things are framed is really important. So a lot of times when, when I hear stories that involve Black people, I feel like the framing is framed from a white supremacist lens.
Right.
So, for example, if we talk about, this slave rebellion and, 50 white people were killed and 300 Black people were killed. And usually those are going to be the types of numbers. It's going to be like 2 white people and 800 Black people.
Right.
But, the other thing that I've started to realize is that, or that, I think about a lot, is that when they frame those rebellions, they start them, it's like if you look at the history of, the people in that situation, how many hundreds of Black folks died, before the actual official quote unquote rebellion started.
Right.
And those people aren't counted. Like, the framing only frames it up from this day to this day. And I feel like, as a Black person, my perspective and how I frame things is important. And I really have tried to become very conscious of framing things in a way that tells my story, in a way that is true and authentic to me and my experience, mm-hmm. and is a reflection of me and my people. But on the devil card, that's another thing. It's like you could focus on the title and the devil, but you could also focus on the folks, and you can focus on, what's going on for us as people and what can we do. Mm-hmm. So I feel like sometimes, some part of the work is focusing on yourself and how can you get free, focusing on myself and how can I get free. And I feel like freedom is a work. I don't know if freedom is a work inherently, but I feel like in the context of a white supremacist society, freedom is a work. It's a job. It's an ongoing process.
Right.
It's not something that, even when you see that the chains are on your wrist and you can slip your hands out, slipping your hands out can be challenging because there's a part of you that says, no, I'm going to stay because you are going to love me. You're going to come to appreciate me.
Right.
You're the best thing I ever had and I don't want to leave. And there's something comforting about this chain on my wrist because it's been there for my life and for generations and generations. And what am I going to do if I don't have this chain on my wrist? And so it's sort of like the work of what are you going to do without the chain on your wrist?
Right.
And, it just caused me to think about, the ways in which, I'm attached to things that are evil, the devil, demons.
Well, that's like what Carter G. Woodson said. Mm-hmm. if there's not a door, mm-hmm. if there's not a back door, then you'll build one. Mm-hmm. Always looking for a way to stay and
to honor the programming, because that's
to honor the programming. But it's like what you said about like whenever something happens, unarmed Black man or woman, child gunned down, unarmed Black man, woman, child getting some Karen coming or Becky coming and calling the cops on for just existing and so on. Well, we need to take them to court. We need to go through the legal system. We need to blah, 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 blah. And that's our go-to.
You're going to love me.
But
if I
exactly.
The
system wasn't made for us. It wasn't made by us. It's the only way that this system applies to us is when it's punitive, when something is happening, the system can be used to dog us out or to throw us in prison or whatever. But as far as us getting some actual justice, like I said, that's our fallback. But as you had said before, what else are you gonna do? Mm-hmm. It's like calling the cops. Mm-hmm. Like, somebody's breaking in your house, right? Mm-hmm. And you don't have a weapon, and somebody's breaking in your house. What do you do? Mm-hmm. Because what you do is basically, as a black person, you basically flip a coin and say, well, the chances are 50-50 that they may stop this person, or I might end up the one, as a chalk outline because I called them.
Mm-hmm. And I actually think that for most of us, we don't make that calculation because the programming is so deep. It's like, if you're in trouble, call the police. I think, like, as little kids, they come to our schools and,
Right.
It's like we get trained that police are good. Police are here to protect and serve. Right. If you're in trouble, call the police. Like, I think it's, I look at it and I'm like, oh my gosh, don't call the police.
Right.
But I think that in general,
But what else are you going to do?
What else are you going to do? And I think that's the programming.
Somebody stomping all over your rights. Well, I need to take them to court. Yeah, what else can you do?
Right.
But that's why it's a valid argument when our people start talking about we need to have our own. Mm-hmm. Because you're not going to tell me that, like, in Little Italy, Little China, or Chinatown, so on, they don't have their own systems of checks and balances and their own actual governments within that nobody knows about. Mm-hmm. And they take care of stuff themselves. Mm-hmm.
Although I kind of feel like we have to get, like, I feel like for us, because as black folks, because we have been programmed for generations, we get programmed before the womb. We are programmed, in our DNA. We're programmed in our DNA for greatness and as Africans, but we're also programmed, at least for the short 400 or 500 years, mm-hmm. we've been programmed to be a part of this system.
Right.
So I think that, like, for example, I'm a proponent of homeschooling, and I believe that we have to educate ourselves. But at the same time, I kind of feel like, I think it's Malcolm X who's like, only a fool lets his enemies educate his children.
Right.
But I feel like if I look at it practically and pragmatically, hey, Mama Shu, if I look at it practically and pragmatically, for most people, if you look at most black people in this society, how do we have the wherewithal? How do we have the consciousness? How do we have the will to educate ourselves? And I feel like when you
how do you have the mechanism?
How do you have the mechanism? And when we start taking our children out of their schools, because their schools, especially now, are a pipeline to their prisons.
Right.
And this system was built and designed on exploiting us. So when we start withdrawing from their systems, they're not going to they don't just like sit back and let us.
Plus it's an ecosystem, because when economically I have to go to work, you have to go to work, mm-hmm. God's children got to go to work. But then your children, you want to homeschool your children.
Practically, how does that work practically?
Right. So you have to send them there.
Right.
It's just this trap. It's just this trick box.
It feels like you're in a trick box. Right. And when I as somebody from Detroit, where we have, had, and I'm not sure if it's still going on, but a long tradition of African free schools or, African-centered education. It's even being inside of the schools, the little bit of experience that I've had in them, it's more than a notion. Mm-hmm. And I feel like if you look at the devil card, if I look at the devil card, it's like all you can see on the card is the devil and the people and the chains for the most part. But it's sort of like, I feel like I don't know what the process is or what the answer is, but there is something outside of the card. Mm-hmm. There is something, we have to begin to develop, and continue to develop and continue to fight for, getting loose from those chains and building something, creating something, building on our long-standing traditions of owning ourselves, being ourselves, being free and being, honoring ourselves, and being centered in ourselves. But it's more than a notion. So it's not something that I think is, I feel like getting free, being free, what do they say? Is simple but not easy, or whatever. It's more than a notion.
But to become unentangled, to free yourself, you have to realize, or you have to realize that you are entangled, or that you are, so like the saying goes, you don't realize that you don't realize that you're strapped to a chair until you start trying to get out of the chair.
Whose saying is that? Yours? You say that all the time.
That's a variation of the actual saying, but I can't pull it verbatim. Yeah, but that's
but
you don't realize that you're that you're entangled until you try to get out of the entanglement, and then once you do, then your choices become: do I want to struggle? Do I want to struggle against? Because it hurts. It hurts. I'm trying to stand up. I'm trying to pull up, and it's hurting my skin. It's hurting everything. And do I want to fight against it, or do I just want to relax and sit there and stay in it and not really feel it?
And, I guess it varies from person to person. And I have a lot of empathy for Black people because I feel like it's tough. It's hard. It's more than a notion. I know that in my experience so far, as I've gotten more and more conscious, as my mind has gotten more and more free and my ideas have gotten more and more free, and I feel like more connected to my authentic self, my Black self, to Black us. I can't, it's like the egg is broken and I can't put it back together.
Right.
So I'm mixing metaphors, but it's kind of like I'm struggling for my freedom and I can't relax and just be like, oh, okay. I don't know how to, cause it's like my perspective has shifted to the point where, I can't unsee what I've seen. Right. When I look at stuff now, I just see it the way that I see it, and I can't see it the way that I used to before.
That's like something as simple as watching Soul. You watch that. I can't watch it the same way that I would have 10 years ago. Now I watch it, and what I see is a Black man with a white woman's voice coming out of him, or a Black man who spends a large part of the movie being blue. In other words, Black people just can't be
animal. Wasn't he an animal?
A cat.
A cat.
And so, in other words, a Black man can't be presented as a Black man throughout a whole movie. Now,
not in the context of this white supremacist society,
right? And so that's the thing is, some people can watch that movie and not even think anything of it. But now, everything that I see, it's like I told you yesterday, when people are trying to say, well, everything isn't about race. Yes, it is. Especially in this country, everything is about race.
I mean, it's the foundation of this country is enslaving Black folks and stealing
and oppressing them.
Enslaving and oppressing, raping, stealing, terrorizing from, and the same thing with the folks who were already here.
Right.
Brutality, theft, annihilation. I mean, so.
Right.
It's based on white supremacy.
Right. The system of white supremacy.
Right. So I feel like
white supremacy doesn't even exist. And I guess that's why they created a system, a system to negate the fact that they are not supreme. And actually lacking. Yeah. So, we talk about the problems all the time. But what are solutions for our, it's like, Ajalee, she's always talking about Fukushima. She talks about the problem. She brings the problem, but she has entire blocks of her channel that are dedicated to solutions. Entire blocks. And that's, I guess to me, that's the difference between someone who's just a fearmonger or, someone who, talks about something that's salacious or whatever, is that you talk about the problem, but then you bring solutions, but you have to bring a person's, you bring it to a person's consciousness what the problem is. And so, I talk about the problem all the time, but I feel the solution is separation. Now, That's easy to say. What does that even mean?
What does that even mean?
And first it starts off with a psychological, mental separation. Mm-hmm. And that mental separation is what causes you to start seeing things like as they are,
I think
as they say, the red pill.
Before you even get to the mental separation, it starts off with saying, wait a second, I'm in these chains. Wait a second, I can get out of these chains. Mm-hmm. And the starting to get out of the chains is the mental separation. But I feel like, being able to see things as they are, like, oh, I can get free. Well, right. Wait, I am attached and I can get free is, I feel like that's right. That's the first step to me. Because what am I attached to that is not, what am I in service to that is not in service to me? Right. I'm going to love you and you don't love me. What do I need to detach from? What do I need to let go? Right. And I think, so I guess that's a question I would pose, for all of us, right. Just to really, as much as possible, stay connected, and stay aware and continue to ask ourselves, if what am I attached to, and is that attachment in service to my Black self, right. to my Black family, to my Black community? And if not, how can I start to let this go?
Right. And just as a practical matter, when you stop and you realize that you're programmed, mm-hmm. Before you can even, move forward with all that, you have to realize that you've been programmed, mm-hmm. and that you have to deprogram yourself somehow.
Mm-hmm. How did you deprogram yourself?
I deprogrammed myself by realizing that I was listening to propaganda, mm-hmm. number one, and then finding alternative mm-hmm. voices, and not just believing everything I heard, but starting to examine mm-hmm. different things, mm-hmm. and different ways of seeing things, and different ways of seeing myself as mm-hmm. a Black person. Mm-hmm. And, even my history, I was conservative Republican my whole life, and
even from a child, you were conservative Republican?
Not when I say my whole life, I mean from the time that I had consciousness to know anything. Yeah, and that basically came out of Christianity. I told you how that evolved. Mm-hmm. And so I would, when I was in the military, I'd have people was calling me the M word. I told you I stand on the street, people, somebody drove by and just called me the M word, just for general purposes. Mm-hmm. And, so even in the midst of all that, I still held on to my conservatism and being a Republican and stuff, because I was like, well, that's just a few, the song, that's just a few bad apples. Mm-hmm. Like, these cops doing that's just a few bad apples. Well, you get enough bad apples and you got a freaking barrel. Mm-hmm. And at some point,
and I mean, I feel like even just before you even talk about, like, if anybody who deals with fresh food, if you have something that's spoiled and you put it with other things that aren't spoiled, everything is going to spoil quicker. Right. There's a chemical that something that helps to ripen things quicker when you have more ripe stuff there. Right. But I don't even believe that concept anyway. Because I feel like they're all, like, it's right. Two sides of the same coin. Good cop, bad cop. They all right. Part of the same system to me.
Right. And, just like I said the other day, it's like, if I'm like fighting a war and I have 1,000 people coming toward me, right, who are trying to kill me, who are my enemy, there might be 2 people out of that 1,000 who really don't intend on killing me. There's no way for me to pick and choose. There's no way for me to know. And I don't have time to sit around trying to figure it out. Mm-hmm. And it's not my position to try to figure it out. Mm-hmm. You rushing me. Mm-hmm. I'm not coming toward you. Mm-hmm. And so my solution is get away from all of it. Mm-hmm. I'm always saying that almost every day, get away from it. Mm-hmm.
I feel like and I guess this idea that, I can't tell which ones are good and which ones are bad. I feel like we're a part of a jacked up, effed up system. Right. And so we're all complicit in it. As long as we're a part of it, I feel like we're all bad. That's you know, and I don't know. I mean, I don't know how to totally separate from it, but I try to separate from it as much as I can.
As much as
I try to have as little participation in it. Like, you know, I feel like to me, it's like a Christian to be in the world, but not of the world. But like, I try to, you know, minimize my materialism. I try to, you know, increase my whole foods, my whole thought thinking. You know, like it's all kinds of things that I try to do to not be a part of Babylon. But yeah, I feel like, shoot, like I always say, we are white supremacists. You're in a white supremacist society. So everything you do is when you're going to work at your job, you are supporting the system of white supremacy. We're helping to maintain it.
Right.
You know, we're helping to advance it, you know, and we're complicit. We're made complicit in our sister and brother's demise.
That's what we was talking about the other day. When I said, look, they force you to be complicit in not only your own destruction, but the destruction of others as they take your tax dollars and go places bombing, you know, black and brown people, bomb them indiscriminately, you know, for their oil or resources or whatever. And they're using my money to do it. I don't want you doing that. Right. I don't want to pay for that.
Right.
I don't want to be part of that.
Right. So I don't know. I mean, I told you, I figured a long time ago, I'm going to do the best that I can to separate, to not participate, to stay grounded in reality and see things for what they are as much as I can. I really want to be connected with truth and God and good. And, you know, I ask to see things for what they are. And, you know, I ask for a vision, but I actually think that because so many things, like, I don't think that I have the solution. I think that, and I don't literally have children, but I think that our children's children have the solution. And so all of the work that we do, all of the work that we can do to get free mentally, to get free literally, is laying a foundation for our children. We're giving them our shoulders to stand on so that they can see something and understand something and create something that maybe we can't conceptualize. Maybe we still on the devil card and all we can do is try to get free of the chains, and they have to see the world beyond that. And how to make those moves and how to shift things. Because I feel like 400 or 500 years, which is what I consider our enslavement as Africans in this society, is a long time. But in the scope of human history, I feel like it's not that long. And I really feel like nothing lasts forever. Right. So I feel like what goes up must come down. There's a season for everything. Like, I just don't feel it's forever. Although emotionally, like, it feels like it's forever. It's all I know. It's all my parents have known. It's what my grandparents. I mean, that's like, it feels heavy, but it's not as heavy as it feels.
Well, you already know that I feel that that a system of white supremacy, this system that they've set up, is absolutely not sustainable. And frankly, I think they know it too. That's why they're in this scramble, grabbing as much as they can, where they can, and trying to protect themselves. But they know it's not sustainable. But I go back to, because I know that there are a lot of people who listen, who are like, well, yeah, that sounds good and it sounds right. I would like to do that. How do you do it? You know, what do you do to separate what do you do? To me, like I said, the first step, I'm always saying the first step, but really, part of it is separating mentally. But it's also, I believe that if a person separates themselves from materialism, that goes a long way to start loosening you up. Because we're taught, you know, bigger, better, faster, newer. You know, I have a iPad, you know, an iPhone 7 or 8 or whatever they're on, and then 8.2 comes out. I just have to have it. And all it changed on is maybe one app. And we're just taught to keep chasing. And in that chase, that causes us to get in debt. And then you're in debt. Now you got to go to work to pay off that debt.
You're more attached. You're more connected.
You're more attached, more connected, and you have to start doing things you don't want to do.
Or keep doing things.
Or keep doing things you don't want to do. Be at a job that you hate, get abused, and so on. And you can't speak up for yourself. You can't do anything because you're concerned about losing your job. Because if you lose your job, you're going to lose your health care. You're going to lose your car, your house, your
So,
or all this stuff that you're paying for, right? Now, that's not saying that you're not always going to have to pay rent, get food, and so on.
But if you can get free of some of the...
Right, you get it down to the bare minimum.
Conspicuous consumption, though.
Right, because I actually have known people who have had like part-time jobs and live just fine. And it's because they don't have a bunch of debt. You know, they make enough that, you know, they're covering their expenses and actually able to go to a movie or get something that they want or whatever because they're not in a bunch of debt.
So I feel like
this just real quick, this consumer culture just makes it so that you get buried. And because of the quote unquote pandemic, it really just laid bare just how precarious the situation was for a lot of people. You going through these neighborhoods that's, you know, middle class and upper middle class, and they're in food lines. And it's because they was making all this money, $70, $100, $150, $200,000 a year, but they're, you know, they're all in debt.
I remember listening to Dave Ramsey and realizing, you know, some people who make $100,000 a year live on $120,000 a year. Some people make $50,000 a year, live on $60,000. Like, right. It's not how much you make, it's with what. So I feel like just in terms of focus, for me, what's important is, like, I can hear what you're saying in terms of, you know, get rid of materialism. Right. But I the way I choose to think about it is to, and in my process, me coming to learn myself and know myself, what do I value? What's important to me? Because I feel like consumerism and materialism is about them telling you through their propaganda machine what you should want, what you should desire, right. What's important to you.
Right.
And so unplugging as much as you can and tuning into yourself as much as you can in a healthy way in terms of understanding what's important to me, what do I value, and focusing on that. I feel like that is, you know, I feel like that's work that I have done that has yielded a lot. You know, and there are some things like, you know, I pay money for food. I like good quality food. I'll pay money for food. But cars aren't important to me. Clothes, like there's a lot of stuff that I realize is not important to me. It's not really a part of my value system.
Right.
So, you know, I feel like identifying your value system and focusing on you and yours and what adds value to you and yours, not what somebody else is telling you is valuable.
Well, remember last night I was watching that thing about the Google glasses that they're not Google, but Apple Glass, and it's like these glasses, and they make it so that you can do, you know, augmented reality and several years ago, I'd have been all into that, but remember last night, I was like, I just turned it off. It meant nothing to me because I was a big time tech head. I love my tech. I love being able to walk around the house telling stuff to do stuff and it would do it and so on. Had an Alexa in my car, you know, an Alexa in every room, an Alexa in the car and so on. And screens, you know the deal, screens all over the place. And, I just loved my tech. Got all the Alexas out the house, don't have one in the car, just don't even have the same car, and just as happy as I can be. Happy as I can be. Because I'm not, because I unplugged from all that tech. Plus, you know, don't have this big car note that I'm paying, all this, able to get stuff and do stuff and save and all, and the more loose you become, the more loose, the more free you become, the more free you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And each thing is like we described on the Matrix, when each of those things was popping off one by one, to get them loose. That's what it's like. You know, pop, pop, pop. You just get loose from different things. So
that's one thing, materialism, or getting clarity about your value system, and having, as much as possible, figuring out how to align your life with your value system. So if you say you value, whatever it is that you say that you value, like I value experiences. So am I living in a way that reflects that I value experiences, or am I living in a way that reflects that I value a bunch of clothes and junk and mess and confusion?
Right.
And if I am living like that, trying to work through it, just being as honest as we can with ourselves in moving forward.
Right.
Another thing that I kind of feel is important is our body. Being healthy, being strong, fit, and healthy. That's one of my affirmations. I am strong, fit, and healthy. But I remember hearing some survivalists talk, or, reading something, and they're like, y'all gathering up all of these guns for, when the shit hit the fan situation, and you can't even walk a block. You can't,
right.
How you gonna carry all of that ammunition? You
right.
you need
or
to
run.
Right. How you gonna run if the SH hit, if the stuff hit the
right.
fan, what you gonna do? But, and I just feel like when your body is healthy, when your body is strong, when your body is fit, your mind gets free in a certain way. And it gives you options it gives you options. It gives you movement. It gives you, there's freedom there. So I feel like that's something that's really important.
Well, to dovetail with that, just like debt makes it so that you have to go to work, being unhealthy ties you to the pharmaceutical and medical cabals. And so you end up, I would like to leave, or I would like to live out in the woods or wherever, but
I have to be close to a hospital.
I have to be close to a hospital.
I have dialysis 2 times a week.
Exactly. Exactly.
Whatever.
Right. And the other thing is that along with health, you have to be like finding ways, which again, I'm going back to Sister Ajalisa, to chelate radiation out of your body. Because now you're surrounded. Unfortunately, this is just how it is. You're surrounded by it now, and there's no getting away from it. It's like getting away from radiation now. It's like trying to get away from air. You can't do it. You're just surrounded by it. So your only choice is to find a way to chelate it out your body. So
I feel like claiming your body, doing an honest assessment, as much as you can, and figuring out, how can I be strong? How can I be fit? How can I be physically healthy? What are some choices that I can make that are in alignment with, my strength, fitness, and health? And not just for me, but for my family and for my community. And we watch each other,
right.
and we're inspired by each other. And, we have a responsibility to one another as much as we can to be the best that we can be.
Right.
So that's the second thing for me, just kind of, in terms of freedom. And then the third thing that is spiritually. And I feel like, there's this conversation out there about black boy joy or black girl joy. But I feel like, kind of finding what feeds you, connecting with what nourishes you, connecting with what loves you and honors you. So I feel like when I think of my mother, when I think of my father, when I imagine my grandparents, I feel like they are rooting for me. They want me to do well. They are rooting for us. They're for me. And so I feel like I am trying to learn to be for them. I am trying to learn to be connected with that. I'm trying to really get spiritually in alignment with what feeds me and what nourishes me. When as I've studied, as I've paid attention to things, to black folks and our history and our desire for freedom and liberation, one of the things I started to notice and think about is, it seems like, and I know I've said this before, but it seems like in a lot of, like, if you look at the Haitian Revolution, the spirituality is a big part of our freedom and our liberation, and has been a big part of our freedom and our liberation, and will continue to be. And I feel like we have to have a connection with a God. Our God has to be for us. And like white Jesus ain't it for me.
Right.
You know, and I feel like as a woman, as a black person, you know, I have to find spiritual connections and connections with good and God that feeds me. Right. And that's part of being free. And, you know, for me, that's an important part of it.
And you already know that it's just like an important search for me, and to find oneness with Yah, because after being raised up in Christianity and with white Jesus and so on, I'm like, you remember what I was telling you? I felt untethered. You know, I was like, okay, now I don't have an anchor point, because what I've learned all my life is basically BS.
It's like you took the chain off and you're like, okay, I'm not going to look at the devil, but what do I look at? Where do I go? What do I do? What am I connected to?
And so the thing is, what's so dangerous, in my opinion, about Christianity, the way it's taught in the United States and white Jesus, I believe that turns a lot of people into atheists, because they start seeing the contradictions and the ridiculousness of it, and the racism of it, and all this. And it's like, as far as black people go, start seeing the racism of it, and you know, it turns them off.
But some of us, I feel like even if we don't see it like that, it's just like our God is not for us. God is for white people.
Right.
You know, and we gonna get ours, you know, our, yeah. So I feel like it's not freedom. It's like, you just bow down now and you'll get your reward later. And I'm just,
fortunately for me, I didn't go off that atheist cliff, because to me, I really do. I think it takes more faith to be an atheist than it does to believe in Yah or God or Yahweh. It just takes more faith to say all of this came into being for just of itself. It's weird to me to have that type of a mindset, because it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Because you know, well, where did God come from? Where did anything come from?
So those were the 3 tips I had, or you know, in terms of specific. I'm not trying to cut you off, but I'm about to go get something to eat. But in terms
don't get anything to eat, baby.
This month we're vegans.
Right. It's an interesting journey. You would think, well, for you it's not that much of a change. For me, you would think that going from being a vegetarian to vegan wouldn't be that much of a leap. And it's not so much of a leap as it is that I'm just like even more careful about what I eat, because, you know, before all I had to do was make sure I had all the meat out of my diet. But now I have to make sure that all the dairy is out. And that's a little tricky. You know, so.
I don't even know. Like, I feel like, and I don't like that orientation. I like the orientation of make sure that the greens are in, the vegetables are in, the raw food is in.
Right, you can do that. I still eat some dairy though.
Yeah, so I know, but I feel like that's really what. But anyway, so that's what I got.
Okay,
I'm about to do my sun salutations.
Well, that's all right. We ran long anyway, but I enjoyed the conversation, and I appreciate you joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.
That's it for this edition of the Draped Maniac podcast. This is Ayapo, the HDIC. That is the head Draptomaniac in charge, and my beautiful black wife,
Angela.
And you can find her channel at Be Fabulous You on YouTube.
If y'all still on YouTube,
right? If you're still on YouTube,
because I hope that you're listening to us, you know where.
Right.
Doaya
Media. Well, that's good. Come on after the stinger. So, anyway, Thanks for listening to this edition of the Drapetomaniac Podcast. And again, this is Ayapo Yapa, the HDIC. That is the head Drapetomaniac in charge, wishing you peace and blessings, safety, security, and sanity through separation. And until next week at the same time, I will see you on the run.
And thank you again for listening to the Drapetomaniac Podcast. Tune in next week at doiamedia.com. DOEAIAMEDIA.com. And again, we'll catch you on the run. Peace.